This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Manny, before I get into a little football, today Mark Kotze was named manager of the A's. So I was having a little fun, and I was saying how many former Marlins players have become managers. So we got Kotze, Redmond, Counsell, and Walt Weiss. Any other ones can you remember? Because I know you're kind of a baseball guy too, so...
Yeah, Arrested Estrada never did that, didn't he? Did he?
No, I don't
one
think
of the national teams.
I don't think Disaster ever made it to a manager spot. He's a nice guy, by the way. I'm just having some fun with it. No, I don't think so. Somebody said Joey Cora.
Yeah,
and was he a player for us? I know he was a bench coach.
I think he was a bench coach, right? He was with.
I don't think he was a player.
No, but he was with the organization, obviously, at a certain point.
I'm talking about players, former Marlins players that have become, managers. So far, we have 4.
Well, wasn't Renteria one of them? Rich Renteria? Didn't he become a manager?
Oh, what you mean the secret weapon?
That's
Rich
right.
Renteria.
Yeah,
that's
he's
how
another one.
Remember, those of us that are hardcore Marlins fans, that's how they used to. Mr. Angel used to call him the secret weapon.
That's right.
Rich Renteria, dude. That's a good one by you, dude. Rich Renteria, man.
That's another one.
That was the first 2 years of and that sumbitch was clutch, bro. He came in several situations and got a big hit or home run or whatever, and that's why they called him the secret weapon. I remember Joe Angel got into that groove of calling him that because he just would come in, and I remember there was a game that Rich Renteria came in, and I swear to you, it was like midnight at the stadium or something. We're like in the 13th or 14th inning, and Rich Renteria saved our asses and hit a home run or something. We're like, thank God for Rich Renteria. Now we can get the hell out of here. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. You just reminded me. I covered one of the longest Marlins games in history, the one up in New York against the Mets that I think went like 20. It felt like it went 20-something innings. And I just remember being there the whole day saying to myself, somebody please end this mercifully. Please just get this over with. Somebody hit a home run, and I don't care who it is. Just end this game.
There's a difference between loving baseball and covering baseball.
Right. There is a difference. Absolutely.
Okay, because people don't realize it that we're at the park at 3:00 in the afternoon,
right,
talking to the damn manager, and then there's a 14, 15 inning affair. And, back in my day, I would then have to go with my cassette deck back to the station to then put it into carts.
Woo.
Okay. And, exactly. It's like a regular game. I'd get home at 1 a.m. An extra inning game, I'm getting back at 2, 3 a.m. And before you know it, it's a 12-hour day there. And I know people are going, oh, I'm supposed to feel sorry for you. But, dude, baseball season is so long. I love baseball. But I after having to cover it, that's the one sport that I don't want to cover, bro.
There is a kinship, though, in the clubhouse, back when we had clubhouse access, where the guys knew who the beat writers were and the radio people who showed up every game, and they had a respect for you because they knew you were grinding with them,
Right. Yeah.
So there was kind of a kinship that was cool about it. But outside of that, the 162 games, it was horrendous. It was just to do that. I did it for 7 years, helping Clark Spencer. I must have covered somewhere between 60 to 80 games a year, and I only got half the schedule. Clark did the other half, and it was just. It was unreal.
Although I my moments hanging out with Dutch Dalton and he would just sit with us and talk baseball.
Yep.
Those were priceless, bro. Those were priceless. You know what I mean? I did get to meet a couple of really like Moises Alou. No, Felipe Alou. I'm sorry. Moises Alou was a horse's ass. Felipe Alou was just, my God. I had a couple of conversations with that guy. The first time I met him, he didn't know me from a hole in the wall, and we talked baseball for like 25 minutes. And I was like, this legend is taking the time to talk to me for 25 minutes. No one else around, you know what I mean? And it was like, it's just one of those things. There are some moments, that you have and all of that, but man, it is a tedious beat. But long story, congratulations to Mark Kotze, who's a good dude, by the way. I'm glad he's getting his shot there as a manager. So, all right. So, speaking of managing, how is Mario managing coaching? What do we know? Assistant coaches, who's coming? Well,
Yeah.
or are we not going to find out until seasons are completely done?
I'm of the belief that whatever person Mario is after for his coordinator positions are probably coaching in the playoff or in big time bowl games, guys that essentially are trying to finish out their run. The one name that was linked to Miami early on, and I reported this as well the day that Mario was introduced, was McClendon, the receivers coach at Oregon, who I know came out and sort of denied that he's coming to Miami because Miami actually created a webpage for him on the school website, and he hadn't even left Oregon yet. But we will see what happens with McClendon. I'm assuming it's just a formality. He's coaching Oregon through the end. Listen, for some of these guys, they have commitments. They want to follow through. They don't want to, kind of be. So I just think that we'll find out as we get closer to the bowl game or right after the bowl game is my thought process on that. Every day, different fans are getting in my DMs. What about this guy? And what about that guy? And I'm just like, hey, it's going to happen. There's going to be a staff here. Don't worry. Mark Cristobal going to have a coaching staff. He just picked up, 2 top 100 recruits without one. I'm pretty sure we're going to be fine.
Yeah, well, tell them what they just picked up. Tell them what they won. Go ahead.
Well, last week, obviously, on signing day was Jaleel Kelly on Wednesday, and then on Friday, right before or right after you and I spoke last Friday, they added Jaleel Skinner, the tight end from South Carolina, who was a top 100 recruit kid out of IMG Academy, but he's really from South Carolina. And I told you, I think last week, it was 50-50 whether or not he would leave Alabama. A lot of people are like, there's no way he's leaving Alabama, but my sources at Miami were like, look, we really feel like we got a chance at stealing this kid. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. He talked about it with his parents and then ultimately decided that really where his heart really was Miami. So that was a big pickup for them. Look, they don't need him to play right away. He's a kid that I saw him in person here play against Plantation American Heritage, his first game at IMG Academy. And I'm like, great body, needs another 40 pounds. But he could spend the next few months at Miami putting on that weight, putting on good weight, so that when Will Mallory leaves and when Elijah Arroyo moves into that number 1 spot, you have a third guy that you feel like is a real super talented tight end. So it was a big pickup in that regard. You keep the tradition going of top 100 players at that position.
Anything else you're hearing on the pipeline there? Any other rumors of other guys?
Yeah.
I would imagine they're not done trying to work this.
Not at all. Today I added some new names. I put a little brief at theathletic.com on this, just a couple of names. But Frank Ladson, who's a former South Dade kid, 5-star recruit, he signed with Clemson, didn't do much in his career there. Kind of was a disappointment. He only played in 5 games this past year, had 4 catches for 19 yards. And in his career, I think had somewhere around the range of 30 catches for almost not even 500 yards. He's going to come back home. It looks like he's going to sign with Miami, probably announce that here soon in the coming days. Miami will happily take him. He's a deep threat, a guy who can come in and maybe, kind of redo his entire career, the way that Charleston Rambo did this past year as a stretch guy, a backup maybe to Keyshawn Smith. So I think that'll happen here sometime soon. Jason Jones, the defensive tackle from Oregon. He's 6'6.5", 320 pounds, had 19 tackles last year. Former 4-star kid out of Alabama, lives in this hometown is this part of the country. I was told that Miami feels good about their situation with him, but it's not a done deal yet that he's definitely coming. There's 2 kids out of the
what position was that?
Defensive tackle. They added one last week, by the way, Jacob Lichtenstein out of USC, who actually started 8 games. I exchanged some text messages with people in the coaching department. It's a very small group. They were very excited about the Lichtenstein kid that they got out of USC. Okay, that's somebody else. They already got him to sign. He's a 5th-year junior. He's only got 1 year left of eligibility, essentially, but he's coming here to replace John Ford, essentially, because John Ford was a big body, run stuffer type. I think that's basically what Jacob is. He's going to come in and help provide depth at that position.
And by the way, Jalen Phillips coming from the West Coast here and elevating himself.
Yep.
Probably, other kids said, well, no, I could go over there like Phillips did and elevate myself and get into the league.
Well, Lichtenstein actually played at Cypress Bay High School. He was one of the local kids who signed with USC out of high school. He just was hurt for 2 years, didn't play a whole lot. This past season, he finally got back into the mix. And obviously, USC wasn't a very good team, but this guy started 8 games for him. I know the coaching staff at Miami is very excited about him because of the depth and how important that run stuffing position is for them. And adding Jones, the kid out of Oregon, that gives him 2 guys essentially to help fill that void. All right, there's 2 FCS kids that Miami's very, very high on. One of them is an offensive tackle named Hunter Nozard, 6'4", 298 out of Cornell. Started 19 games going into this year. I don't know how many he ended up starting at Cornell this year. I have to go through their stats and look at all their numbers. But 6'4", 298, right tackle, help replace a guy like Jared Williams, essentially. Help provide more depth at that position. Miami's fearful that Zion Nelson will enter the draft. If that happens, that puts him in a little more of a precarious.
Whoop. Whoop. Oh, nope, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Oh, Lordy. Lordy. We'll reconnect now with Mr. Manny Navarro, and he'll continue to give us the information. That was funny. He's back.
Sorry, man. And these people call me, and I'm like, hey, don't call me at 12:30, man. I'm on the show with Big O. I need my phone. And, of course, they got a call, so I apologize for that.
Precarious, by the way. You left that precarious, so go ahead.
Yes, I left you in a precarious situation there. Yeah, you just worry that Zion Nelson might leave. So if they do, this kid, you have a veteran, big body, a guy who was all Ivy League at some point. Look, I understand you want guys that can play at this level, but apparently they like this kid a lot. This Hunter Nozard kid, 6'4".
By the way, there's Ivy League offensive linemen in the NFL. That's
right.
It's a bunch of crap. Anybody that tells you Ivy League, go look at the NFL, dude. There's actually some Ivy League players that are playing in the offensive line in the NFL. Just move on. Go ahead. I mean, follow.
And he's an older guy. It's not like you're getting a freshman or some second. This is a guy who's proven that at the Ivy League level to be successful.
So one or two of them in there.
Yeah. And then the other one is a kid out of Albany. His name is Jared Verse, 6'4", 250. Was a redshirt freshman season this past year. 52 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. He just visited Florida State not too long ago. Florida State obviously had a lot of success with Jermaine Johnson, who they got out of Georgia. This Jared Verse kid, he's a Pennsylvania kid. Miami coaches are very excited trying to get their paws on him. So those are 4 names. Ladson, Jason Jones, a defensive tackle. Ladson's the receiver. Hunter Nozard, the offensive tackle. And then the edge rusher, Jared Verse. Big on offensive and defensive linemen. That's what I suspect will happen here in the next few weeks.
C. Dola is putting in on the text line. He says the corner from Alabama is transferring here.
No, he's talking about Marcus Banks, who Miami thought they were going to get him, and they were very surprised when he announced last night that he was.
Well, don't worry, don't be disappointed there, Manny, because C. Dola normally is wrong on our chat board. So it's all right. He continues spreading misinformation. No, seriously. So
unless there's another Alabama DB that I don't know about, but the one that I know was leaving, Marcus Banks, the one who entered the portal, that Miami thought. In fact, there were some quote unquote crystal ball predictions. 247 Sports and Rivals do their predictions. Well, Miami coaches, I know when I messaged them this morning, hey, what happened with this Marcus Banks kid? The response was, yeah, we were surprised too. So he ends up picking Mississippi State and not Miami. Miami coach is still optimistic that Tyreek Stevenson is going to come back. And if he doesn't enter the draft. He's coming off of that shoulder injury. If he comes back, then I think they'll be fine. There's still more guys in the portal. And as I've mentioned to you, after spring football, there's going to be more guys again.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, because they'll find out where they stand. You're right. That's right.
So my thought process here is, look, they did it. I thought Mario and the coaching staff, and I got to give Manny credit too, Manny Diaz's staff credit, because they stuck around and they got some of these kids. Like Stephen Field, he got Jaleel Skinner, right? I mean, they fought hard for Nigel Kelly. Obviously, he would have gone to Oregon had Mario not come here, but Miami did enough to keep themselves in the game for that kid. So to me, ultimately, this class, and everybody says, well, you want to stack 3 great classes on top of one another. Well, you had 2 in a row that were pretty good. Okay. Really, really good. I would say top 15. This class, I think when all is said and done, you're probably going to have 10 to 12 freshmen, and the rest will be transfers, up to 20 most likely. So 8 transfers. If you get those 8 transfers to come in and help you, and they're seniors, they're that offensive tackle from Cornell, and they help replace Jared Williams. Or you get the Jason Jones kid or the Jacob Lipsison kid to replace John Ford. You get Frank Ladson to come in for a year and do what Charleston Rambo did, or at least some capacity where he gives you contributions. Then you did a good job. And I would say right now the biggest need for them is an elite edge rusher. If they're able to do that, if they're able to get this Jared Verse kid and he turns into that, or they're able to get somebody else in the portal here in the next few months, then I think they got every need that they required after what they lost from this roster.
Manny, fill the Canes fans in on what they've lost. Overall, portal wise, who the hell is leaving? Yeah, and I know maybe it's a little too early now, but who's going to declare? Who's going to go? And I know you talked a little bit about Zion. Right, he really needs to stay anyways because he hasn't really built up his
I think he's a day.
Go ahead.
He Zion right now to me is a day 3 guy, which is what I've heard mostly.
Yes, he is.
But the guys that you're losing on the offensive line are Navon Donaldson. Okay, because he's out of eligibility. He's been your starter at guard, and you're losing Jared Williams. Okay,
I think we've seen enough. I think we've seen enough of Navon Donaldson. It's
right.
Not only is it time for him to move on, it is time for us to move on too from Navon Donaldson. But go ahead.
Correct. Corey Gaynor, who was your starting center for 3 years, replaced by Ja'Kai Clark. He's going to North Carolina. He announced that last week, so he'll be at a rival. Your safeties that were one of your safeties who left, Gervin Hall. He's at Utah State now with Ephraim Banda, of course, who was his coach at Miami. Utah State had a great year. Hats off to Ephraim Banda for doing a good job over there. I think they won the conference in their first year at Utah State.
By the way, they've been a good program for a while now, Utah State.
Oh, yeah. They've been on the rise. There's no doubt.
And they've been producing NFL players every once in a while. Mm-hmm. You'll see them pop into the league and have decent careers, by the way.
Yep. Mark Pope, Mr. Drop, as we used to call him, right? Jackson State, Deion Sanders took him. So there you go. He's going to go play with Deion Sanders. We'll see if he can get the best out of him. And then Bradley Jennings, the linebacker who started.
The impact that Brittany Renner has on that program is just absolutely amazing. Bundle of Brittany for everyone. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I digress.
Bradley Jennings, who was a starting linebacker for you in 2020, right? When we had that issue with all the linebackers and the missed tackles. He has gone to Indiana. That's where he will be playing football, which he runs at an Indiana type speed. So I think he'll fit in fine there. Quentin Williams, a defensive end they recruited in 2020, the first transfer out of the 2020 class. He's a defensive end out of the North Carolina area. He's going to Marshall. And then D. Wiggins, who was also Mr. Drop Part 2, him and Mark Pope. He's at Louisville. So there you go. That's where he ended up. And then, here's one more. Jeremiah Payton, the top receiver in the 2019 class for Miami, last night announced he's going to Alabama A&M. That's where they all left. No other guys that were part of the team up until the end have transferred yet. Big O. These are guys who transferred in season. Everybody who I just rattled off to you. There were guys who lost their positions and left when Manny Diaz was still coach.
And the beauty is, I look at that as all as a positive. I don't think you lost anything that's going to really cripple you.
No.
It's all things that Mario can replace, maybe with better. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's actually that all becomes a real positive for the University of Miami, because that opens up opportunities for other players. And as you said, there are multiple waves coming to add more players now. You still have two more, right? The final signing period, because this was the early signing period. Correct. And then after spring, we'll find out. So there's probably a couple of more waves of opportunities to add players, correct?
Absolutely. And, I think what we need to do now is we can't just look at the team rankings and say, hey, Miami finished 47th, because that doesn't take into the account the transfers. Those are like a separate system for team rankings, Right.
So if you add that to what Diaz did the last couple of years, because you just said the 2 recruiting classes are pretty good. Well, yeah, let's just add Quincy Roche and Rambo and start adding all the other stuff that they added, and they become, amazing.
Yeah, they become much better classes. And like I said, Mario talked about this on signing day, but they have so many freshmen, first and second year guys, 45 guys from those two classes that are still on the team I guess the sophomores, if they wanted to go to the pros after this year, a guy like Tyler Van Dyke this upcoming season, they could go pro if they wanted to. But the likelihood is how many of those guys you're really going to lose. So The point is, this is the roster essentially for the next 2 years. This group that you've recruited these last two cycles, plus whatever you add with this group. If you add a Frank Ladson and he comes in and he plays like Charleston Rambo, you replace Charleston Rambo. You're basically getting the same production out of him. If you get a Lichtenstein or a Jason Jones to come in and start and be that plug in the middle, you've replaced John Ford. And you're allowing the younger kids, the Leonard Taylors, to not have to carry so much burden. They can come in and be a co-starter, not the guy, which is what I think a problem has been for Miami for many years, right? Because they'll get some talented young players, but then those guys get exposed because they're out there for 80 plays.
You're right. All right, what are you working on The Athletic so Canes fans can subscribe and check you out?
Well, I'm going to do something on this sort of roster evaluation, kind of what, taking a look at the roster position by position, what Miami's bringing back. Because I think there's people are sort of like, hey, where do we stand? So I'm going to do a little bit of a guide on that. Then I'm going to enjoy Christmas with my family. And then I'm going to fly to El Paso to cover a bowl game that nobody really cares about other than, hey, what did Tyler Van Dyke do in this game?
Hold your nose. That's all I say while you're there.
Right.
That's it. Just hold your nose, and everything will be. Don't take a breath while you're in El Paso. I don't know if you can do that, but try, my brother.
The Mexican food's not bad. I've had that before.
Food is great.
Yes.
But then after that, you're going to add to the smell of the city. So that's just not good either. But that's a whole other story. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro and catch his exceptional work there at The Athletic. Manny, as always, my brother, thank you for taking some time. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Big O. Take care.
You got it. There you go. Our Canes wear Miami Hurricanes report.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.